Welcome to the Misfit One Lifestyles with Elizabeth Colin. She will awaken and connect with your Misfit One. Are you tired of the ups and downs in your life? Are you ready to live a healthy lifestyle once and for all? We are talking about all aspects of your life. Being fit is not just physical, it's also your mind and soul. Learn how to take steps in your life to move towards your goals. Elizabeth's goal is for everyone listening to the sound of her voice to get fit. Let's get focused, let's get intentional, and let's transform. Now here's your host, Elizabeth Colin.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Misfit One, and today's guest is somebody you do not want to miss. I'm talking to all the winos out there, and I'm having my hand up. I'm a wino. This is Mr. Todd White from Dry Farm Wines. How are you, Todd?
Awesome in sunny California today, having a beautiful morning, and can't wait to talk about some dirty, dark secrets of the wine business.
Woo! And we are all ears. I'm telling you, when I was first introduced to you by Cherie, told me about this healthy wine, my whole world exploded. I'm like, say what? You're talking about two of my favorite things, health and wine? How is that? Let me meet this man. Tell us all about it, Todd. What is this healthy wine that everybody's talking about?
Well, we've become sort of the keto wine, the paleo wine, the healthy wine. In just a few short years, the company's 5 years old, but I started biohacking about 20 years ago and really got very serious about the ketogenic diet about 6 years ago. And I've been on a modified ketogenic diet ever since. When I went keto, at that time, more of a therapeutic ketogenic diet, which is more stringent than the one that I'm on now. And I was therapeutically ketogenic for a couple of years. Over time, being in a therapeutic ketogenic state is become somewhat tedious and a little bit boring. Right? So, but anyway, when I went, this very hardcore keto, I found that I couldn't drink wine anymore. Wine was the only thing I drank. I quit drinking spirits like 20 years ago.
Okay.
And, but I had a lifelong affinity for wine. I've been drinking wine since I was 9 years old. I grew up about 20 miles from where you are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, in a little town called Gastonia, North Carolina.
I was just to say where Gastonia.
Yeah, G-town. It's a great place to be from.
Right?
I live in California now. But anyway, so I've been drinking wine. I've moved to the Napa Valley, which is the most important wine appellation in North America for conventional wines and cult wines and so on and so forth. Not the kind of wines we drink or sell, but I moved to Napa Valley because it's beautiful, and I had this kind of love affair with wine. In 2005, I actually made some Napa Valley wine. So I knew something about winemaking. It was kind of a hobby project, meaning that I lost money on it, right?
Right.
So, but I made a little bit of wine.
Right.
And so when I went keto, I found that I couldn't drink wine anymore. It was making me feel bad. I was getting brain fog and sort of worse hangovers. And I didn't know why. And I actually initially thought that it was the higher alcohol that had been creeping up in wine. I just thought wine was just too high in alcohol and was making me feel bad. And then this is a common thing for people who go keto, that they find that their relationship with alcohol changes a little bit.
Right.
So I was, at the time, I was not working, and I've been self-employed since I was 17, so I'm not employable. I was looking for another business opportunity. But I didn't approach this as a business opportunity. I was really just not working at the time, and I was trying to find a healthier way to drink. Right. And so I was talking with a friend of mine. I was actually considering making some low alcohol wine because I thought it was just the alcohol.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Because alcohol has been steadily increasing in American wines for the last 30 plus years. Right. So 30, 40 years ago, wines in the United States were 12 to 12.5% alcohol. Today, they're nearly 15%.
Yes.
Now, Americans love alcohol, and the wine companies love alcohol. So alcohol makes wine bolder and denser, which appeals to the bold, rich American palate.
Right.
And then the wine companies like it because alcohol is addictive.
Right.
Alcohol is also a domino drug. And what I mean by that is that the more you drink, the more likely you are to drink more.
Got it. Right.
You've probably had that experience.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Todd, but I'll believe you.
Exactly. No. I'm a wine expert, right? You'll go along with it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so I'm talking to a friend of mine who I think is the smartest person I know in the wine business, and I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about making some wine, and there are technical processes. The most common one is called reverse osmosis, where you can separate alcohol out of the wine. It's a common process. It's used all the time when alcohol gets too high in wine.
Okay.
So I was going to make some wine and remove the alcohol from it. And I was asking my friend, how low can the alcohol level get in wine and still taste like wine? Right?
Okay.
Because at some point it doesn't taste like wine anymore.
Now it's grape juice.
Yeah, it's really about 7%, 8%. Anything below 7 or 8% doesn't taste like wine anymore. And even at 7%, it doesn't really taste like wine.
Right.
So I would say arguably to taste what you think of as wine. Is probably 9%.
Okay. Right.
All right. So he said, have you tried any of the lower alcohol wines that you can find in cooler regions in Europe? And I was like, no, I had no idea. Right. So I started searching for low alcohol wines. And that's sort of when I stumbled quite accidentally on the natural wine revolution, which was beginning in central France.
Wow.
I didn't know what a natural wine was, and most people don't. Because
we still don't. I'm like, I still have no idea what a natural wine is.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
Talk to me.
So natural wine is a confusing term to consumers because they then say, well, I mean, aren't all wines natural?
Right.
The answer is no. And here's why.
Okay.
See, the wine industry, the wine business, has got some dirty, dark secrets.
Spill them.
They've been very successful in keeping those secrets until I came along and I've told a few million people. Right? So you can imagine I'm not very popular in Napa Valley, right, where I've told I have a beautiful life here, but I wouldn't say my social life is vigorous anymore.
Right.
So anyway, so I started telling these secrets, and the foundation of the secret is run by mega big corporations. This is the foundation. So the same thing that happened in our food supply. See, there are 9 companies in the food supply that basically touch everything we eat, right?
Which are?
And the same thing, well, there's a whole bunch of, from Dole, that's in the food supply. I'm going to explain to you that the same thing happened in the wine supply over the last few decades. So through massive corporate consolidation and greed driven by public markets, right? Lots of money. So these big wine companies bought everything up. So basically the top three wine companies in the United States make over 50% of the wines.
Wow.
Right? And the top 30 companies make nearly 75% of the wine in the US. So when you go in the grocery store and you see those long shelves of wine, or you go in a wine shop, there are thousands of bottles. Most of that wine is made by just a handful of companies, right? Now, they hide that from you because they're very clever, slick, multi-billion-dollar marketing conglomerates. So what they do is they hide behind thousands of brands and labels to confuse you. And they put a farmhouse on the front of it or a chateau. So they want you to think that you're drinking from this farmhouse with this little farmer, but actually you're drinking from massive wine factories located in the Central Valley of California. And these wine factories are so big, they're like multiple football fields, right? They're like gigantic, right? That's where the wine is made, most of it.
Right. It's not from that little mom and pop that we...
No.
Because that's what I envision when I am swirling the wine around. Right. I envision the beautiful rolling hills of Italy and, France and,
That's what they sell you is this kind of romantic idea. That's how you sell wine is through story.
Yes.
Right? I sell wine through facts and data and testing.
Okay.
They sell wine through story. Right? That's just kind of how it's done.
Okay, great.
So now, here's the bigger problem. So you got a bunch of bad actors right? Who are just like greedy, right? And then you got their friends in Washington, D.C., the politicians.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the wine industry spends millions of dollars a year in lobby money to prevent contents labels on wine bottles, right? So wine is the only major food product without a contents label. And why doesn't it have a contents label? Because they don't want you to know what's really in it that's making you feel bad, or you didn't even know you were feeling bad until you stopped drinking it, right?
Okay, right.
And so because when you drink our wines, you can't go back to drinking those commercial products.
What's so crazy that you say that, Todd? I have friends of mine that says that they can't even drink wine anymore because they feel they get sick off of it. They feel very they have headaches. They have lots of headaches is the number one thing that they say. Is like, every time I drink wine, I get a headache. And I did not, I haven't experienced that. Maybe I'm not drinking enough, but I'm sure
it's a very common side effect from these additives. So here's the deal. There's 76 additives approved by the FDA for the use in winemaking. And you don't know about those additives because the wine industry's kept it secret by not having a contents label. Not to mention there's no nutritional information also in a bottle of wine, so you don't know how much sugar's in it.
Right.
And so, of course, our wines are sugar-free.
That is it.
But most wines are not, right? And so these 76 additives, some of them are natural, but 4 of them are very toxic. And the most toxic one is called dimethyl dicarbonate. It's sold under the brand name. It's a chemical called Valcarin, right? And so now, dimethyl dicarbonate is very toxic. I mean, it's so toxic if you were that has to be applied to the wine when it's treated by people in hazmat suits. You can't even breathe it.
Are you kidding me?
Right. No, I'm not kidding you. Tens of millions of gallons of California wine are treated with this chemical. And the company claims that it hydrolyzes into methanol and carbon dioxide. I have a whole bunch of problems with methanol, but we'll skip that. Here's the issue.
Okay.
I just think you should know what you're drinking.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So if you decide to drink wine that's been treated with dimethyl dicarbonate, I think you should know that, right? Just like if you drink wine that has glyphosate in it from Roundup, or if you drink wine that's been treated with ammonia phosphate or copper sulfate or these other chemicals that are used in winemaking commonly. I just think you should be able to turn the label around and see what's in it.
Correct.
Right.
I agree.
And they don't want that. And so what we do is we go out and we don't sell any domestic wines. There are no wines in the United States that meet our standards for purity and health.
Wow.
Right. So we work with very small, tiny family farms, about 800 of them across Europe, 4 in South Africa, and a couple in Chile. And so there are only about 1,200 natural wine growers in the world. There are a couple 100,000 wine growers, but only about 0.1% of all the wine growers in the world are classified as natural. So let me tell you what that means quickly. So a natural wine, it's very simple, and the category, it doesn't have any official certification. Now, Dry Farm Wines, my company, has a certification process, which I'll tell you about in a moment, but our certification is several bars above just being natural. But there is an international understanding of what a natural wine means. And France is about to be the first company, they just announced a couple of weeks ago, they'll be the first country to actually have a natural wine certification. Right?
Awesome.
Yeah, which is great. It's the first in the world. So natural wine is always organically or biodynamically farmed. So no chemicals in farming, always.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It is always fermented with wild indigenous native yeast. Now, what does that mean? On the skin of every grape berry in the world at the time of harvest, there's yeast on the skin. It's collected through the air. It's wild indigenous yeast that collects in the vineyard. It has a little white waxy appearance to it.
Okay.
And that's actually yeast on the skin of the grape. Now, when you make a natural wine, you use that wild native yeast as the fermentation vehicle to ferment the wine. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute, how you make wine. But so when you make wine, the yeast eats the sugar in the juice. That's the food source for the yeast. And then the byproduct of that is carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol. That's how wine is made. Yeast eats the sugar. Now, we'll come back to that in a moment. But here's what happens with commercial wines that are not natural, is that the winemaker introduces sulfur dioxide to the juice.
Okay.
Killing the native yeast. Right? And then they inoculate it with a genetically modified commercial lab-grown yeast. And they do that for a few different reasons. The primary reason is that it's just easier and cheaper, right? So these wild native yeast are temperamental, they're difficult to work with, can't make wine in very great volumes using them, they're too delicate, right? So these genetically modified lab-grown yeast are grown and modified to be very sturdy, very easy to work with, make wine in large volumes. They will also withstand a higher alcohol level, right? Okay. So if alcohol level gets too high on a native yeast, it will kill it, right? These modified yeast will withstand an alcohol level of 18 to 20% and still live and complete their fermentation. And then the third reason is that these yeasts are sold in flavor profiles. So let's say that you grow an industrial chemical farmed grape in Central California, but you want it to taste like it's from Italy. They add a yeast for that, right?
Are you kidding me?
No, so you can get different flavor profiles. So anyway, and then, so natural wine is always organic or biodynamic, always fermented with wild indigenous native yeast. And number 3, no adjustments, no additives, nothing in, nothing out. Right.
And it still tastes good?
It tastes brilliant. It tastes better, actually. It's much better because the wine is still alive.
Right.
Right. The wine is living. It's a natural thing. It has living bacteria in it. See, commercial wines have been sterilized with a filtering process in addition to a sterilized dose of sulfur dioxide at bottling to kill everything possible in the bottle. Right. Because they want this long shelf stable. They also want to McDonald's it. It makes all the bottles taste the same. Right. So it's just it produces a very shelf consistent taste and shelf consistent product. Right. Natural wines have not been sterilized. So there's still actually living bacteria in them, including Dr. David Perlmutter has written several times about our wines and the living bacteria that are in them that are beneficial to the gut microbiome.
Well, let me ask you this. So since does it have a shelf life? Does the bottle of the natural wine, do you have to drink it fast? Because I'm okay with that too, but.
No, 5 years, some have aged longer, but they're not going to be like, these are not wines that you're going to set back and open 20 years from now, but that's not how most people drink wine.
No.
90% of wine is consumed within 24 hours of purchase. Right. And so most people buy wine to drink today or soon. Right. And, we're a wine club. So our product appeals primarily to regular wine drinkers, which is who we want to help the most. If you drink wine daily or every other day or several times a week.
Why you looked right at me when you said that, Todd? If you said you.
I could feel it, girl.
I saw you look right into my eyes and I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm listening. Yes.
Exactly. So, I wanted to help regular wine drinkers. Like, I drink wine every day.
Right.
Like, unless I'm on an extended fast, I drink every day.
Right.
And so I do extended fast, a couple times a month or once a month. And so it's, I think fasting is, central to a healthy life. But that's the only time I don't drink wine, right, is during an extended fast.
Well, let me ask you this. Since you're talking about how you do your fast, I know that this wine is for us health conscious. I don't know what to call this tribe. I don't know, because it's a community of us that really are health conscious. And I'm not the crazy type. That's because I don't believe that the world lives that way. That's why I drink wine. You know what I mean? Um, but what do you do on a daily basis for your health? Like, how do you start your day?
Well, I begin usually with meditation first thing
Yes.
in the morning. And then my company also meditates together at 10 a.m. every morning, now via Zoom. But historically, in our offices, we have a meditation room.
Love
And
that.
so we meditate for an hour from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock every morning. Now we do it via Zoom. But when we return, we'll be back in our meditation room. But I get up and do 28 minutes of silent meditation. And then I generally have a cold shower. And then I go to the gym. I'm not going to the gym right now because of COVID, but
Right. What are you doing
then
for the
I'll
pandemic?
run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I take a run. Running is my go-to cardio if I'm traveling or
Right. Yeah.
don't have access to a gym. And then I have some dumbbells and some pull-up bar and some other things here at this house I'm actually renting at the moment. I have a house in construction nearby, but I'm renting a house. So I have some dumbbells here, and
Right. Yeah.
I have to tell you, it's not the same as going to the gym. It's just not as fun. I don't get in that mindset of like a serious workout here. I
Right.
just don't seem to have it. So
Mm-hmm.
I do push-ups, some body work, some dumbbells, some pull-ups, so on and so forth. And then I run 3 to 5 miles a day.
Yeah.
And then, like many people during the lockdown, I've been walking a lot,
Yeah.
right? So I have probably take 2 or 3 walks throughout the day as well.
See,
Now,
that's
but
amazing, though.
yeah, but normally, of course, I live in the country.
Mm-hmm.
There in the town I live in, there are only 2 cases of the virus. Right, so
Oh,
it's super
COVID-19.
contained.
Yeah. Right.
And I also live in the country, so it's it's quite beautiful everywhere you look. And the
Mm-hmm.
weather, of course, in California is pretty perfect this time of year.
Yes.
And so I am outside a lot, and then but my general routine is the gym, and then I go into my office where we meditate, and then
I
but then
love that.
so that's my general routine, and then
And then you bust out the wine around noon.
no, I don't drink
Oh.
during the daytime. I don't even taste wines during the daytime.
Right.
So I only drink at night, and I don't
Right.
recommend that other people drink in the daytime. It
No.
just,
Right.
super
Mm-mm.
rare. It just that alcohol is a substrate energy source. So,
Right.
once you start drinking, you're going to stop burning fat. You're going to stop, until your body turns all of its attention to sort of expelling this toxin, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. But
And
they
so,
said now that we're in the COVID-19 and everybody's staying at home, people have been drinking much more frequently and earlier than they
yeah,
would.
there's no question that people are
Yeah.
drinking earlier, and no question that people
Yeah.
are drinking more. In
Mm-hmm.
part,
Mm-hmm.
just to escape just to
They
escape.
bored. Yeah.
They're bored.
Yeah. It's like, okay. Yeah.
And there's I'm usually start drinking around 5 or 5:30, where normally that would be
The
6
normal
o'clock
time.
or 6:30,
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
so yes. I mean, I'm drinking a little bit earlier, but I don't drink during the daytime, and I don't drink at lunch. I don't eat lunch actually, but
What I did, Todd, is very true, because I was one of those people, and my husband, has a work outside the house, but now everybody's in the house. But before, because we're going to have a life before COVID and after COVID, right, and during. But before his COVID, he would come home from a long day work, and he would have a beer, and I would have a glass of wine. So that would always be around 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So but now I had to consciously say to myself, self, we are not having any wine until still after 5. So I did
sure.
exactly like you. It's after 5 that I would say, okay, because it is a big difference. But I am really looking forward to the natural wine. I am all about it. And my platform, is all about fit, and to incorporate something that people think that they cannot have. It's a no-no. is going to be, life-changing for a lot of people.
Well, a couple of things really matter with natural wines. So, natural wine is additive free, and then the wines that we sell are also lower in alcohol. So we don't sell anything over 12.5%. Okay. Most of the wines I drink are between 9 and 11%. And the fact of the matter is, just drinking less alcohol makes you feel better, right? I love wine. I don't love alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so it's, I want to get up and feel fresh in the morning. I love drinking wine. I love getting high on wine. I love enjoying the nuances of wine. Mm-hmm. This is part of my lifestyle that I've chosen. But, let's be clear, and this surprises people to hear this from the wine guy. Look, alcohol is toxic, and it's a dangerous drug, mm-hmm. and it destroys a lot of lives, right? So we have to be careful with it. And if we care about our health, and particularly our brain health, then we want to drink less alcohol, lower alcohol. Not only does it taste better, but alcohol is not friendly with food. You don't have vodka in a salad, right? So it's like alcohol is not friendly with food. Water is friendly with food. And there's primarily only three things in wine: water, alcohol, and then, polyphenols and flavonoids and antiflavonoids that are the health properties that are wine. And we know that it's pretty conclusive that moderate doses of alcohol extend lifespan, and that lower mortality, and are beneficial to cardiological and neurological health.
Absolutely, yes.
In moderate amounts.
Absolutely.
Right? And so now imagine you're like me and the rest of my friends. You don't sit down and have a glass of wine. You have several, right? So if that's just how I drink.
Right,
everybody I know drinks.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then, and we want to have lower alcohol intake, then we start with a lower alcohol product.
Makes sense, yeah.
Right. And so, and I promise you, the health benefits and how you feel are extraordinary just by lowering the alcohol by a few points.
Right.
It just makes a huge difference.
Right.
Plus, there's no sugar in it. So when you mix sugar and alcohol together, you get a particularly nasty effect. Mm-hmm. I give you this example. If you have a shot of tequila, that's a very different experience than drinking a margarita, right?
Yes.
Right. And so the sugar and alcohol together have a particularly nasty combination on how you feel, both while you're drinking it, the bloatedness that you feel from it, in addition to the hangover is much worse. And so it's important to drink sugar-free wine. And the only way you know if a wine is sugar-free is to lab test it. Because even as a taste professional, we can't taste low levels of sugar, right? Because the acid in the wine. And so you have to lab test. It's the only way to know. Mm-hmm. So all of our wines, so let's talk about the dry farm wine certification very quickly. So in our case, they're all natural, but in addition to being all natural, they also have to be dry farmed. And what that means is that there's no irrigation used in farming.
Huh.
And 99.9% of American vineyards are irrigated. Now, why do you irrigate? It's about money and greed. See, big wine companies don't want to make wine healthier or better. They want to make it cheaper and faster.
Right.
So if you irrigate a grapevine, it might not surprise you that it has a higher yield. It's cheaper to farm. It's easier to farm. And the berries weigh more. And fruit sold by the ton. So if you irrigate a grape berry and it's filled with water, it weighs more.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's why you irrigate. In most of Europe, it's against the law to irrigate a grapevine, in most of Europe, right? Because Europeans who've been making wine for 3,000 years know what I know.
Right.
The moment you irrigate a grapevine, you fundamentally change the physiology of the ripening of the fruit and the character and quality of the fruit. Period. End of story. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. And so this is because grapevines produce the best fruit when they're under stress, right? Everybody knows that too.
Yep.
I'm talking about grape growers know this.
I was like, I didn't know that, but okay.
Well, I mean grape growers.
Okay, good.
Right? And so wine people know that, which is why you'll see on wine bottles, cult wine bottles, they'll sell Hillside Select. So the vineyards were on a hill because the hillside stresses the vine.
Gotcha.
Right? It's
yes.
different than being on a flat plain. So stress is what, and so irrigation makes for a lazy vine, right? Irrigation also lowers the polyphenols in the wine. as does non-organic farming. So when you farm with chemicals and you irrigate a grapevine, you have a less healthy berry, right? It's lower in the polyphenols, and the most famous one is called resveratrol, which you've probably heard of. And so it's one of the compounds that are found in red wines. It's not found in white wines because it comes from the skin of the grape. When you make white wine, you just squeeze the juice off. You press the juice off into a tank, and you start the fermentation process just with the juice.
Right.
In red wine, you press the juice off, and then you add the skins and the seeds and stems into the tank. That's how red wine gets its color and its tannin structure. It's also why it has so many more polyphenols, is the contact with the skin. So the polyphenols and flavonoids and antiflavonoids that are the health properties of wine, there are just over 200 of these compounds in white wines. There are over 800 of these compounds in red wines, which is why red wine is generally thought to be a healthier choice if you're drinking for health reasons. So anyway, organic, biodynamic, no irrigation, native yeast fermentation, no additives, and sugar-free, right? So we just tested, to give you an example of sugar in wines, we just tested the top 20 selling wines in America. Right? Okay. That's an easy data list to get off the internet. What are the top 20 best-selling wines in America? We just lab tested the top 20 wines. Only 2 of them met our criteria for sugar-free.
Wow. Out of 20?
Out of 20. Only 2 met our criteria.
Okay.
And our criteria is that the wine must contain less than 1 gram per liter, which is statistically sugar-free.
Yes,
right?
I saw that.
You can't even measure it. You can't even measure it in a glass, right? And so less than 1 gram per liter. And a wine bottle is not a full liter in most cases. It's 750 milliliters.
Right.
So we're talking about and most of the wines that we drink are like fractions of that, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 tenths of 1 gram. Right, it's not even measurable at the glass level. So statistically, they're sugar-free.
Right. So what is your biggest selling wine? What is it? Do people still drink more red wine because
they do?
Okay.
They do. Yeah, red wine outsells white wine. 2 to 1.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a red wine, but I used to like white wine until I started being more health conscious. And
white wines tend to also have more sugar in them.
It has
now,
more
ours
sugar.
Is sugar free.
Yeah, right.
But as a general rule, you'll find more sugar in sparkling white and rosé than red.
Yes,
as a general rule.
Absolutely, and that's why I switched over to the red, which was a change for my palate. Well, I never really drink at all. Like I didn't start drinking alcohol until I was like 38 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was almost 40 years old. And my dad would say, because I lived in California, my family's in Texas, and they would say, I had a rough day, Dad. I can't sleep. I can't. And he would always say, have a glass of wine. I'm like, Daddy, I don't drink. I'm not going to have a glass of wine. I'm not going to do. He's kept saying, baby girl, have a glass of wine.
Nice.
And finally, I had a glass of wine, and the rest is history. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I know all about it.
But what I did do is I made the switch from white to red for health reasons, and now I am switching from the commercial to your healthy wines for more healthy reasons. Because the more we know, the more we grow. Right. And that's exactly why I wanted you to come on today. Because if you don't know, you don't know.
Well, Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better.
There you go. Absolutely. And now we know better. And what's great about it is I had no idea when people said natural wine, what that meant. I'm like, I thought all wines were natural. I thought all of them.
Natural wines are quite rare. And we're the largest importer and reseller of natural wines in the world.
Yes, so. I read that, and I'm impressed because I think of natural wine, I think of Lucy, the I Love Lucy skit, and
Yeah, nice.
and that is my image. But I am so excited that you came out and took time today for us. And so what is your biggest seller? I didn't hear that one. What is your top seller right now?
Well, I mean, we get a lot of requests for specific types of wine. Probably in the red, Pinot Noir is probably the most requested wine. But we have our program's a little bit different, and it's very interesting. So we do custom selections if somebody only wants Pinot Noir, but 98% or 99% of our customers get a curated selection of wines that we select for them.
Tell us about that. So if I'm a customer, what do we do? First of all, we find you. How do we find you?
Well, you can find us at dryfarmwines.com.
Okay.
Dryfarmwines with an S.com.
Okay.
And then, and that tells the whole story of natural wines and what we do. But, and then you select red, mixed, white, rosé, sparkling. You select the type of wine that you want, or a mixture of the type of wine that you want. And then we select for you within that range. Let's say that you ordered a 6-bottle box of red. Then you would get 6 unique reds in every box. You would never see the same wine again.
I love that.
Because these wines are super small in production. The other thing is, see, when you adventure around the world like this, you're going to be drinking wines and grapes you've never even heard of that you wouldn't know to order.
Right.
So it's kind of like being able to take a trip to Europe and drink all these interesting small family farms without leaving your house for grapes like, Pinot Denis or Schiava or Nebbiolo or, 100 different grape types that you've never even heard of.
Right.
And because Americans know like the 8, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet, Merlot, right? This is what Pinot Noir. This is what Americans know because that's the American grapes. But actually, there are thousands of grape varietals around the world, and the reason natural wines are oftentimes these obscure wines is because usually the vines are very old, right? So average age of vines that natural farmers have are around 60 years old. Right. Wow. Average age of vines in California around 10 years old because they get ripped up every 15 years to get replanted because once a grapevine gets to be about 15 years old, it substantially decreases its yield. Right. Now, the fruit is better. It's more character, but the yield is significantly lower. So they yank it up and they replant it again. Right. So they can get these top producing yield years. But actually, old wines have better character. So most of these wines from these small family farms are multi-generational, and they're what we would call ancestral grapes. Wow. So they were grapes that were historically planted in that region, not because they were the most profitable or the best known, but because they were indigenous to the region, right? And so that's when you get Schiava in Italy or Nebbiolo in Sicily or Frappato from Sicily or, all of these grapes that most Americans don't know, and they're extraordinarily good, right? And so with our curating the box for you in this way, you're having this experience all around the world, with grapes that you wouldn't know to order or know that you would even like. Plus, we have 100%. Here's the other thing. We have 100% happiness guarantee, right? So we will refund or replace any bottle you don't like. Right. No questions asked. You don't have to send it back to us. You can drink it, tell us you don't like it, and we'll replace it. Right. It's just because we want everybody to be super happy. We're also a wine club. Now, if you sign up to our email list, which you can do on our website, if you sign up to our email list, you'll get special promotions from us that come out monthly that are one-time orders. But if you go to the website, you're going to see that we're a wine club. You can sign up today and cancel on the same day and get a single box if you want, right?
And let me ask you this. In a box, how many comes in a box when you are
6 or 12.
6 or 12. And you get it every month or every
whatever
3 months?
frequency you want.
Oh, you can select. Okay.
You can select any frequency you want. Most of our customers are either monthly or bi-monthly.
Yes.
And some are weekly, right? We have customers that get 4 or 5 cases a month. Right. So it depends on how much you drink, and so, and how much wine you share with your friends and so on and so forth. Right. So, it can be any amount in any frequency. 6 bottles is the minimum order, right? But it can be any amount in any frequency that you want. So we have a very easy to use account portal that you can change your frequency, change your type, change your shipping address, do a one-time ship somewhere if you're on vacation or so on and so forth. This allows you all this flexibility to manage your account, or it's simple, easy, one click to cancel.
Right.
So we're not trying to get people tricked into a subscription. Right. It's like we help regular wine drinkers. Regular wine drinkers don't want to be bothered with ordering all the time. They want a subscription. Right. Because they want their wine there and dependably on time, week after week or month after month or whatever the frequency is. And then some people order quarterly, right? Because they don't drink wine very much. But most of our customers are monthly or bi-monthly. That represents probably 98% of our customers are either or more frequently in many cases.
Well, I tell you what, I've learned a lot today, Todd, and I am just like, wow, on the whole wine thing and the secrets that you have shared with us. And I'm telling you, I'm going to go sign up for my monthly subscription. Nice. I already did, though. I did. I signed up for the mailing list. I want to know more about it. And people, get out there, go to his website, check it out.
I'm just going to send you a box from me for doing this show too.
Oh, you're the best. Thanks so much.
So Tom. Be sure and email me your shipping address at home where you are now during COVID, so it'll come right to your door.
I love it. Thank you so much. But everybody, get your case of wine, Todd. You're the best. I am going to share with everybody out here. We all on this that's listening to this platform want to live a healthy life, or they wouldn't be on Misfit One Lifestyles, right? And so go out, get you a case of wine, and think of Todd. Thank you so much, Todd. You're the best.
Thanks for having me on today. It was a great time. I'll look forward to seeing you again. Maybe I'll catch you in North Carolina sometime.
Absolutely. We in California a lot too, so I might just drive on up.
Nice.
All right. You take care. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Go to the website, misfit1.com, to hear this episode and more of them. Till next week, stay fit.